All right, good afternoon and happy Friday to everyone who's joining us for our second little spotlight series for August accountability with some of our corporate partners. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Becky Goldberg. I am the STEM Challenge Program Manager for the Illinois Science and Technology Institute, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by Libby Richards from the Lenovo Foundation. And Libby, we're going to go ahead and dive in. So I would love for you to start. Give us a little background on who you are and your role at Lenovo Foundation.
Sure. Thanks, Becky. Hi, everybody. I'm Libby Richards, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager at Lenovo for our North America Giving. And in this role, I manage our corporate philanthropy and encourage employee giving and volunteering in the US and Canada. And I've worked for Lenovo for about 2 years, and I live in Durham, North Carolina, near our US headquarters.
Excellent. So thinking about what role you're in right now, can you tell us a little bit about the pathway that you took to get there?
Sure. So growing up, I probably I didn't realize that someone could do corporate social responsibility or philanthropy. I probably didn't even really know what those terms meant. I think I knew that companies would sponsor things in the community that were big and were small, like little leagues, or a company might have their name on a stadium. But never did I think that one day I'd be in a position where I'd be helping a global company make those kind of decisions about how they're supporting the community. So in college, I was part of a service-based scholarship that was through AmeriCorps. And I worked at a community center in South Carolina and really fell in love with community work. And after I graduated, I went and worked at a neighboring college in South Carolina, and I managed a similar service-based scholarship. And after a few years, I moved up to North Carolina, and I spent about a decade working with a regional funder here, a community foundation in North Carolina. And first I managed their scholarship programs, and then I moved into a role where I was helping them to design their community giving, their community grant making. And I regularly collaborated with people who worked at companies in the Triangle area of North Carolina, or that Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area of North Carolina. So I was pretty familiar with the work of corporate social responsibility or corporate giving. That was, I kind of made that jump from being a community funder to working for Lenovo.
Excellent. What do you enjoy most about the role that you're in?
Sure. So in my role, I'm really able to see the heart of the company and really able to see and experience and help shape the culture of Lenovo. And I'm just always blown away by the generosity of the company and our staff. When we ask our staff to volunteer or if we ask them to give, they're eager and they participate and they are happy to do so. And when there's a need and we go to our leadership and say, how can Lenovo respond? They step up. And they're willing to give back to the community, and they recognize that it's a big part of who we are and the way that we can be good corporate citizens and be caring of our world and our communities. It's heartwarming to be a part of that.
Yeah, and we hear that a lot too, that it's not just one person trying to make an effort, but you really need the support of leadership in higher places, but also kind of the employees of the actual company to say, yes, this is the time and energy that I want to give to giving back. So that's great to hear that it's happening at Lenovo. We also know that Lenovo has a large footprint when it comes to community impact beyond partnership with ISTI, beyond partnership in the STEM Challenge. So is there an overall mission that you operate under at Lenovo?
Sure. So the Lenovo Foundation invests in advancing STEM education, so science, technology, engineering, and math education programs. And we are looking to increase access for opportunity for diverse populations. And we also are focused in on that, empowering employees to improve communities at a global level. Last year, the Lenovo and through our Lenovo Foundation, we provided over $19 million in philanthropic support and volunteering worldwide. So we were really proud of that. That was a record-breaking year for us.
Yeah, that's a big number, especially when you think about how many people it probably really reached directly and even indirectly. Thinking through then kind of all the partnerships and this overarching mission of promoting STEM education, how does a corporation like Lenovo, or even in the role that you serve, how do they choose where to invest?
Sure. So the Lenovo Foundation is led by a board of directors that's made up of staff members from across the world, from our different geographies and from our different business units, and they help to guide the work that we do in giving and help manage or they help us create those strategies for giving. And then we have staff members in the different geographies across the globe that help to make the work happen. And our investment decisions around what organizations we partner with or who it is that we're supporting are really based on that alignment to that mission around improving STEM education or making STEM education accessible to diverse communities across the world. There's also some decisions that are made around, or whenever we're making a decision, we take into account the need and are the potential for our impact. You mentioned, the numbers that how many people are we impacting directly and indirectly? So looking at what organizations and what impact they have. And then there's some decisions that are also made in part because of the proximity to where our offices are and where our staff are. So I mentioned that I'm here in North Carolina, and we do a lot of giving here, but we also do a lot of giving in the Chicago area, which is where our Motorola mobility staff are located. And so we're happy to have partnerships up in the Chicago area as well.
Excellent. And you've already talked a little bit about kind of what you enjoy and seeing the heart of the work that you do within Lenovo, but what do you find challenging, either partnering with multiple organizations or kind of facilitating this type of impact within the company?
Yeah. What would be most challenging, I'd say, is that the need is great. And while we have resources to support our community, the need is always greater than the resources that are available. And especially right now, as we're here in the midst of a global pandemic, and we are a technology company, and what we do and what we make is helping to connect people and helping students. We want to be able to put a laptop in everyone's home and have students be accessible to laptops to technology so they can continue their education. But we've provided a lot of resources, but the need is so great. So I'd say that's what's most challenging is wanting to do more.
Right. And I feel like I've talked about this too with our last corporate partner, thinking about like if everyone had that mentality of how can we really impact more, we probably could. But with the limitations and the barriers, I think it's awesome just to see, again, the impact one corporation can have and really that true direct and indirect impact. Why is it important for a company like Lenovo to have a philanthropic or corporate social responsibility sector?
So corporate citizenship is very important to us, whether it's through financial grants or donating technology or empowering our employees to volunteer and give their time, and we're able to match their gifts as well. Our vision as a company is to provide smarter technology for all, and we want to ensure that we live up to that mantra. And we want to see that all students have access to the technology that's needed to ensure that they can continue their education. And we see that smarter technology can solve problems, and it creates opportunities, and it transforms the way that we live and that we learn. So, but to have have our humanity reach their full potential, we want to make sure they have that access to the technology that's needed.
Excellent. And thinking through kind of, again, the impact from Lenovo, working with ISTI, the partnership is more than just a check. It really is personnel dedicating time. And so I'd love to hear from you too. What other causes and organizations does Lenovo and Lenovo Foundation work with? And it could be kind of globally or locally, but just some other organizations that might be of interest to some of our viewers to hear what you are doing.
Sure. So one of our national partners here in the U.S. is NAF, NAF, the National Academies Foundation, and NAF has a curriculum a curriculum to create academies in different schools across the U.S. And we've partnered with them to create a mobile app development competition. And students, similar to the STEM competition where students are empowered to create some solutions or encouraged to create some solutions, our partnership with NAF with the mobile app development, the Lenovo Scholar Network, is one where we're proud to see students doing real life problem solving and creating mobile apps that can then be downloaded on the App Store and are available for use, to put to good use in communities.
That's awesome. When working with organizations like NAF or again like ISTI, what is it that you all hope to see as an outcome?
So of course that mission around advancing STEM education or creating opportunities for STEM education for communities who are historically underrepresented in STEM fields. So really wanting to see organizations that are empowering students or empowering community members to learn more about how they can be active in science, technology, engineering, and math, with that focus on particularly people of color and of women, and seeing how we can diversify the STEM field and STEM, those working in STEM careers.
Thinking through all of that so far too, and it can be your perspective from your role or just in general, but what's fun about doing this type of work and working with organizations like this?
Oh, really, this creativity of the students is so fun to see. What is it that they see as a problem in their community, and how can they creatively address that? This is a really great opportunity for our staff to see how the technology that we make can be put to use, and how people are using it, and using it for good. And so it's a great feedback loop for us whenever we're working, with the STEM challenge, and we're asking the students to take a look at the products that we make, the Moto products that we make, and think about, how can everyone use them differently, or how can we make them differently? So the creativity is definitely a highlight.
I feel like I've seen that firsthand too with the students with the STEM challenge, and hearing them learn about Lenovo's technology and thinking through it as if they're the user, but also if their community is the user. Mm-hmm. And I agree, the kids they see it in a new light that I think, just even as adults, it's not always the first thought. And so getting their perspective, I think, is really refreshing. And I know our mentors find it creative as well to work with students and have that conversation. So it's cool to see that that's, an outcome that you want to be seeing, because we're definitely seeing that in the classroom. Mm-hmm. We also have been working with Lenovo and Lenovo Foundation and Motorola Mobility, specifically in Chicago, for quite some time. And we have mentors who've been with our partnership since really the creation, and they continue to come back and they continue to give back. So what do you feel it is at Lenovo Foundation, or Motorola Mobility? What creates this culture of continuous volunteerism, or why do you value skills-based volunteering?
Sure. So Lenovo's two greatest strengths really are around our diverse global employee base and that commitment to innovation. And so we really try to lean into that in opportunities like the STEM Challenge and the students that we're working with. So I'm trying to, encourage them to connect in the same way that that we do as employees, that we're connecting with our employees across the world to solve problems. And so encouraging students to think about how they can do that too with their partners and their mentors for the STEM Challenge. In terms of how, what the importance of skills-based volunteering, we really see it as something that's mutually beneficial for both the organization and for our volunteers and the students as well. So volunteers are able to really hone some technical skills. They might learn something new. They might be, interacting with students in a way that, teaching students about something that they don't necessarily do for their day job. So they're learning those new skills. And then you think about leadership and personal development. For the organization, we hope that you all are able to tap into the expertise of our employees, and we hope that we're able to provide some training for your staff and the students that you work with, and build those community champions around Lenovo too, and Moto.
Awesome. One thing you touched on that I would love to just circle back a little bit is, I know that Lenovo Foundation is a global partner. It's not just local, as we mentioned, it's not just Chicago or not just North Carolina. Can you give us some examples of some of the work that's being done on a global scale or just beyond the United States?
Sure. So the Lenovo Foundation, we are building our staff members in roles like I am across the world. So we have staff members who are managing our giving and employee volunteering worldwide, which is a great growth for us. This has been within the past year or so that we've been adding some new positions. Just recently, we have expanded the employee volunteering opportunities worldwide by encouraging staff to take 8 hours a quarter, so 32 hours a year to give back. And that's PTO, paid time off. Staff are encouraged to do that. We encourage our leadership to create opportunities for employees to volunteer together as team building. That's really been embraced by our leadership. We also have provided at a global scale a global month of service. So a few years ago, we had a day of service, and then we had a week of service, and now we're having a full month of service. So last May, May of 19 was our first global month of service. October of 2020 will be our second. We last year had 55 different cities that were involved in the global month of service. That was over 37 different countries. Wow. And more than 2,800 employees participating. So that was pretty cool. And you know, this year I think we're excited to move forward with the global month of service, even during a pandemic, because I think our staff are generous and want to give back. And we've already made the call that it's going to be a virtual global month of service, but I think that leads us to think more creatively and gives opportunities for staff in different parts of the world to participate. So if there's an opportunity for our staff in India to do cultural exchanges with our staff in Chicago, you know, we might be able to help make those matches happen.
I love that the view on the virtual switch isn't a negative. It's how do we create the new resource and new creativity that comes out from it. I think that's a really strong perspective for us to always keep in mind as we move towards kind of this ever-changing evolvement of what our environment is. So I love that. I also love, again, kind of touching on the conversation of building capacity at the company. So it's not just one person controlling all types of giving, but it really is kind of creating new openings, whether it's, you know, in the United States or in branches abroad. Why do you think Lenovo is choosing to invest in kind of staff capacity building to really, you know, broaden their impact?
I think it's something that we've heard from our staff that they want that opportunity. You know, there are times whenever we've done, you know, for example, that global month of service where it has been a company-wide experience where we're encouraging people to all volunteer during this one particular time or with these particular organizations. But I can speak from the North America perspective that there's a lot of interest from the individuals and from our different business units in doing these, having these opportunities to connect with organizations or with the community. And it's really, you know, kind of grassroots type efforts, and even the SIM challenge to some degree, you know, it has been driven by our Chicago-based, you know, mobility team. So it's, you know, like I said, sort of like that grassroots desire that staff are looking to find opportunities to give back.
I love that. And how do you, and again, this can be totally from your perspective, it doesn't have to be like the official stance of the Lenovo Foundation, but how do you see initiatives starting to evolve, you know, not only in this next year, obviously given the current climate of everything going on, but even, you know, in the next 5 years, how do you see Lenovo continuing to evolve with initiatives in corporate social responsibility?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, in the midst of a global pandemic, there's been such like an additional focus that's been brought up around racial equity and the Black Lives Matter movement. And I think all companies are taking time to turn the mirror on themselves and to think about how are we empowering our staff members who are people of color, and how are we building leadership pipelines, and how are we supporting our staff. And Lenovo's, having those similar conversations. And so through some of the work that I've been doing, we've been thinking about how diverse are the programs that we have, and how can we build on that, especially thinking about partnerships and with HBCUs, or thinking about how can we support internship programs that are specifically aligned with either HBCUs or targeted for people of color. And I think that's a conversation that will continue, over the next 12 months, the next 3 years, 5 years. I think that's something that we're aspiring to see. How can we have an impact that that is building our own diversity and supporting the communities that are in need and in our communities as well.
I love that pipeline conversation too, that it's not just about who's coming in, but who's, not just, who's coming in as high schoolers or college students, but who can you recruit and diversify within the company and kind of at any level. And so I think those are important conversations. And within the STEM challenge, we definitely look at that as well within Illinois, specifically in terms of pipeline development and creating a more inclusive and stronger talent pipeline that reflects the representation of what makes up our state and the innovation in the state. So I think that another alignment with the ISTI's mission as well. What would you tell students, like the ones that the Chicago mentors work with, or even kind of other mentoring programs Lenovo does, but what would you tell students who are interested in working for a company like Lenovo one day, or even interested in pursuing corporate social responsibility and community engagement?
I definitely encourage students to seek out opportunities for work-based learning exposure. So look for more ways where they can learn about careers and fields and things that might be of interest to them, both formally and informally. So opportunities like the ISTI STEM Challenge, where you're paired with mentors from different companies, is a great formal way to do some of that work-based learning, or having an internship. But think also about ways that you can learn in informal way, learn more informally. I just this week had a student reach out and ask me if I could help pair him with an engineer at Lenovo to have a conversation, to learn more about what it is that the engineers at Lenovo do. So having conversations, or reach out to someone on LinkedIn. And this past summer we had a workshop for some high school students that were doing a virtual mentorship program at Lenovo from North Carolina. That they had a workshop around LinkedIn, and got some great feedback from students saying that I didn't know this was a resource, that I needed to be thinking about in high school. And sure, it can be. You can, make great networking through a resource like that. So think about that work-based learning. The other thing that I would note is that employees are really looking for individuals that have both hard and soft skills. So technical skills, are learned in the classroom and from textbooks. They're so valuable in knowing how to do the technical aspects of work, but don't forget those soft skills that I think our recruiting teams and our hiring managers are looking for students, or looking for individuals to hire that are skilled in teamwork and in problem solving and in communication and time management and prioritization. So I think there's so many opportunities for students to build those skills through opportunities like the ISTI STEM Challenge, and don't forget those, especially at a time whenever it might be harder to work on your team skills, because you're connecting in ways like this through online means.
That was the perfect paragraph to share with our students, to be like, this is a real person, a real company who's telling you, these are what recruiters are looking for. And I think that's, again, a great perspective. And even the LinkedIn, I think that's great for our students to hear too, that it's there. Of course, there's tons of formal internships or networking events or experiences like the STEM challenge, but there's also a lot of little ways that can really kind of just set them apart and get them ready to have those conversations when the time comes. And I love that the student called too to connect with an engineer. I think that's great to just, again, demystify, like, what does an engineer do? Like, what are the daily tasks? So that's wonderful. So Libby, I'd love to turn it over to you to kind of wrap us up. Is there anything else you feel like we can amplify here, just of what Lenovo Foundation is doing or working towards, or any projects that you feel could use a shout out? I'd just love to turn it over to you on kind of any last thoughts.
Oh, thanks. I would just kind of close in saying that it right now is such a challenging time, and students and teachers right now are grappling with how do we make sense of this new normal of distance education, or safety at school in the midst of a pandemic. And I encourage students and teachers, or maybe it's not encouragement, but I just want to let you know that I feel so much empathy and the high level of respect for parents making hard decisions, teachers and schools making hard decisions, and students putting in that hard work. So I congratulate you already for making making it through the summer, and encourage you to be flexible and be generous with yourself, or forgiving of yourself in the next few months, because I think it's going to be hard, but hopefully companies like Lenovo and the technology that we make, and the work that we've done the past several months in providing some donations throughout our community will help to ease some of that transitional pain.
I think those are good words for everyone to kind of reflect on, and definitely good words to end on as well. So Libby, I just want to say thank you again for taking some time this Friday afternoon to connect with us and share a little bit about Lenovo Foundation beyond just the STEM challenge, and talk about your role as well. If anyone has comments, you're more than welcome to drop them in the comments below. We'll make sure Libby gets them and can answer them if they are there. Otherwise, we wish everyone a great Friday and a safe and healthy weekend. And we will be online again next week with another interview. So Libby, thank you again so much.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.